That's one of my trademarks. It's very color driven. It's very art driven. It's very curated. I'm lucky that I work with a lot of clients that have lived many lives, or they have lived in many places, or they travel a lot. There's also an accumulation of objects or art or furniture pieces that they've brought within their different travels or living abroad. These are layered because it's their life story that comes together within us in a space through my eye. It's 100% their home, and if you see them, they're all very different. There's a conductive thread. I am the one creating this space, but I am just a channel of who this person inhabiting this space is. And this is my interpretation of who you are and how you want to live. But it's 100% their home.
It is their home. Like, they're the ones that are going to live in it, because it is a responsibility. One of the biggest things we need to learn is, like, it's another human being behind those doors that are going to see the colors you pick, that are going to see the fabrics. And every day that also stimulates who they are as well. It's almost like designing the future version of them.
From that moment forward, in a way, they're walking into a different space with which they're going to interact differently. And if you, at the end of the day, you come into a beautifully designed space or something that feels welcoming and nurturing and warm and nice and cozy, and that is going to create an impact on your psyche, which will then be transferred into everything that is touched by you. It's like before and after, your life after me.
I would love to see those case studies, by the way, when you do them. This is the Space Whispering Podcast with Rainy. On this episode, we have Francisca Trujillo, a New York-based interior designer and abstract artist with a global practice, seamlessly integrates art and design to create spaces that elevate quality of life as the ultimate luxury. What a pleasure it was to interview Francisca Trujillo, an icon, truly. Not only for her work that speaks of her and her ethics and of who she is, but also as a person, as a human, and how life has encouraged her designs today, the person who she is, and how she curates luxurious spaces for her clients and for herself. She mentions in the show that she'll have her studio and paint more and use art as her medium, apart from spaces and walls and ceilings and floors, and translating what her clients want. She's very colorful in her designs as well, which is the thing that I was attracted to. And I wanted to know who was the person behind these beautiful, delicious work. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We're building a community of soulful whisperers and creators. Join us by subscribing, leaving a review, and following on Instagram at Rainy_. And if you're ready to transform your space into something authentically you, and if this episode inspired you, imagine the worlds we can create together. Book a discovery session at rainy.co. Whispers, keep creating spaces that feed your soul, and let's whisper together. Hola Francisca, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, y tú? I feel very happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I love your work. I found it through the amazing world of Instagram. And when I saw it, I was just so attracted to your work, to your persona. And I am very grateful you're here with me today.
Thank you very much. I feel the same.
I usually like to break the ice with the name. So Francisca Trujillo, where it comes from, does it have a meaning to you or your family? And was it like hard, or was it fun, or how was the transition of accepting your name?
I'm originally from Colombia, and growing up, I'm 42 years old. So for the past 40 years, Francisca was a very strong name for a girl. And to be honest, I never even knew another person around my age who was called Francisca. So growing up, it was very hard for me to have that name because I just felt it was so strong and so harsh. I would often change it, and I would say my name was Camila. But as I grew up, I loved it because I felt it was unique. And precisely not a lot of people have it. And I also love the strength of Francisca Trujillo as a whole. Eh, However, my full name is Francisca Catalina, which it's horrible. It's just not sonoric at all. I don't know what got into my mom to give me that name. Um, but lately I've been thinking of incorporating it more into my energetics because at the end of the day, that is my given name. It's not the name I've gone by, but that is my full name.
That's beautiful. And does it have a meaning for you or your family?
Well, Francisca comes from the origin of France, which means free, um, which is very pertinent to who I am as a person. I'm a very free and independent person, woman. So yeah, I think it definitely ties into who I've become as a human being.
Isn't that amazing when you slowly start accepting your name and then like having that meaning behind it and without even realizing it's really aligned to who you are.
Yeah, it is.
And how about like in business? Because it is very strong. Like I think it is a powerful name. It is a beautiful, beautiful name.
So in business, I'm based out of New York, and the bulk of my work is in New York or US based. And for Americans, for some reason, it's just very complicated sometimes to say my name. So they say Francisca. So I have to say, imagine San Francisco, just put an A at the end, and that's how I tie it in. Um, but I'm also gotten used to it, and it doesn't bother me. They can call me whatever they want to call me. It's just a name, but I know who I am. That's it.
Exactly, exactly. I want to share my story a little bit so you know that you're not alone completely. My sister was 6 years old when I was born, and my mom told her to name me. And she created my name, which I go by Rainy, Raini in Spanish, and because the H is silent, and it's Rainelina.
Oh,
My
wow.
full name. Exactly. So imagine growing up with that name that was completely invented. No one had that name. And in school, I remember my teachers would always stop and I would know like the first day of class, I would know they're trying to pronounce my name. And it doesn't matter what, was it the US or Dominican Republic? Like it didn't matter. No one understood. And so I would raise my hand and say, Rainelina, but you can call me Raini. And they would be like visibly like,
Thank God.
what, Raini? So I also had this cassette as I was growing up. There was a cassette, and I used to listen to this album, and it was her name. The artist name was Stephanie. So I always wanted to be named Stephanie. And yeah. And then eventually, slowly but surely, I'm like, I love my name. And mainly the short version, like Rainy. And then in high school, I had a friend that called me Rainy Day out of the blue. And that just like, yes, this is me. This is me. Like Rainy Day. So that's how
Beautiful,
it.
very poetic.
Thank you. And also, I would say that the meaning is because it's like a mix from my mom, my dad, and my sister. So I took the meaning from my mom and dad, and it's like consejera, hija de Dios. Yeah, counselor, daughter of God. So yeah, I I like that too.
Beautiful.
And so, what is your story? How did you end up in New York from Colombia, right?
From Miami, really.
From Maya.
Um, my whole family. So I grew up in Colombia. I was born and grew up there, but turn of the century, like late 90s, early 2000s, there was a big exodus of Colombians abroad, because there was a big social political crisis that was happening at the moment. And my family was one of those that decided to move for better life conditions, essentially. So we moved to Miami as a family unit, and I lived there for 9 years. And then I ended up in New York very serendipitously, because I visited one day. My very good friend was visiting from Colombia, so I came to New York to see her for the weekend. And she was staying at a friend's of her parents. She was staying with her parents' friend in New York. And we went out for lunch or dinner. And this woman, she was getting divorced and she was starting a new life. She was starting a renovation of her apartment in the Upper East Side in New York. And right then and there, she was like, well, do you want to do my project? Do you want to do my renovation? And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I wasn't sure. Like, I love New York. Whenever I visited, I loved it, but I never saw it feasible for me to move there. I just thought it was a very harsh city and hard city to live in. And at the moment, I was completely thinking of shifting careers and going through a very different path. I went to school for interior design, and that's what I had been practicing during those years. But I was thinking of completely shifting, and then I said, you know what, this is a great opportunity. It'll be a great a solo project. I can do it. I'll be in New York for a few months, and then I'll just keep on doing what I was intending on doing, which was completely like a 180 flip. And so I did. I went to New York for my first project, and then another project came along, and another came along, and here I am 16 years later. And it's very hard to leave it now. I love it. So from not even considering being there, now it's like 100% my home and 100% part of the individual I've become.
Yeah, it's like how even your name, like freedom and independence, and I feel New York gives you that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So why interior design?
So I did not start in interior design. I started studying economics. And all my life, since I was a little girl, my mom always worked in development. And I remember since I was very young, she would take us, I have two younger sisters, she would take us to do volunteer work on the weekends, or she would take us to the programs that she was working on. And so we were very exposed to social aspects and social need as we were growing up. And I always felt that this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to abolish poverty from the world. So I always thought I wanted to work in the UN, and it was a completely different path. So I started studying economics. At the end of the year, I completely flunked out. Like, my GPA was 0.7. It wasn't even a 1. And I said, absolutely not. And coincidentally, I met a woman who, in my very impressionable eyes at 18, 19 years old, she was this beautiful, beautiful woman in a beautiful apartment with a perfect boyfriend. Everything about her was fantastic. And she was an interior designer. And I was like, huh, this is interesting. I want to be that. I want to do that. And at the end of my freshman year in college, I decided to stop doing that, and I registered for interior design. And that's how I ended there. With also, I think it was truly, it was never something that I even considered. I think growing up in Colombia, and I would imagine it's similar in your country, in Dominican Republic, like, you're a doctor or you're a lawyer or you're like all these artistic careers were not really feasible. They are more so now. But 25 years ago when I graduated, that was not at all what the path one would take. So no, I just ended up there, and I loved it, and I honestly don't see my life any other way.
That is so beautiful that you say that you don't see your life any other way. It's like recently I saw this quote that said like my wrong and right decisions were always right. Like both decisions. And I think that's like a relief, like
Yeah.
peaceful. Yeah. And so how has your design developed? Like your aesthetics, the way you design, the way you interact with your clients. I'm curious. Is that kind of like a hard question or too
No,
broad?
no, no, that's a good question. How has it developed?
Yeah. Or evolved? Like how did you start? And because 16 years gives you so much like breadth of like clients, projects, and you start in a I at least I started with this idea and now it's like completely different. So I'm wondering what your experience has
mm,
been.
so so there's several questions within your question. I guess aesthetically, of course, it's developed in what would I see it now? Of course, with experience, you are able to develop spaces or design kitchens or bathrooms or just a living room or bedroom that are way more, if we look at it from the function aesthetic standpoint, that is completely into cohesion now. Whereas maybe when I started, maybe I put a little bit more emphasis in the aesthetic of it, and I wouldn't necessarily think of the function just because I thought it looked beautiful. So I think that definitely has come into one now. But that's the nature of anything, no? With practice, you become better, and you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that. This works better this way. So that's just part of growing within your career. Uh, I think with time, it's also become a little bit more refined. I'm very lucky that I get to travel quite a bit, so I am exposed to a lot of different things constantly, different uh, cultures, different languages, different ways of living, and that has definitely transferred into what my designs are. Whereas it you could call it a little more refined, but also like more of a global perspective. So I incorporate things that I see on a trip in north of Africa, or I go to Paris to select something, or I go to South America and there's this beautiful fabric that a local weaver is doing. So I feel that my designs are very cultivated and are very traveled. So that has definitely become somewhat of a trademark in my spaces, that um, they're not very linear. They're lived spaces. They're curated spaces. And with my clients, I think it would be just again, with experience, you become way more confident in who you are, and how you speak to them, and how you present, and how you manage expectations, and how you manage boundaries. So yeah, there's I'm sure there's been a learning curve within that as well, but I must say that I've been very lucky that I've always had fantastic clients. Um, so I think it goes hand in hand to also have beautiful people that to work with, and that I get to learn from them as well, you know?
Wow, so many beautiful things that you said that I am like breathing it in and listening. And I think it's so beautiful when you do get out of your comfort zone. Like you
Mhm.
already did. You moved from Colombia to Miami, from Miami to New York. Like those are huge like things that break who you are, or you like, like I had this identity and then I'm this now. And even with your name, like the different sounds like of how people approach you, like, and so already your personality and who you are is being like poked, like changed. And so exactly, constantly. today, like how has that, like how do you feel that, like, or your latest change, like personally, in that sense, because you've been in New York and you've been in this career.
What
So it's like, because, you know, you went to that transition when you were younger, and now staying in New York, which is New York, I know that it, you know, it transforms, it changes you all the time. But like, what is the thing today that helps you change as a person, or has pushed your buttons of identity? Or
So I think I'm a very curious person, and I'm always keen of exploring and discovering new things. So I always try things out just once. Maybe I hate it, but now I know I hate it. Or maybe I love it and now I know I love it. But I do try it. And how does that change? I think especially now in the world that we live in, and we could say, I would say in general, but maybe in the what all the changes we've gone through in the past few years since COVID, where it completely shifted our perception of reality and of what was possible, and even like the very specific moment we're going through now. I think it's very important to remain flexible and to remain open to new possibilities and to new ways of thinking, and to, because otherwise you just become stuck. And I think that further creates bigger issues like fear and hatred and jealousy, and because you're just stuck in your ways and in your mentality and your thing, and you're not navigating as to what is possible, and how can I make the best with what I have. And I think that New York also, like tying it into what you were saying in regards to New York, I think it's a city that within its dynamic, um it's a very lonely city. So it forces you to like really come into yourself and understand who you are, and how do I want to navigate my life within this spectrum. So I think also that city contributes to that, hopefully for everyone.
yeah, you know, for me, it's like, I was born in New York, but my parents are Dominican. They met in New York in their teens. And when I was born, my mom was like, I've like almost like I've given my time to New York. And then we moved to Dominican Republic and back and forth since then.
Mhm.
But I lived as an adult, independent adult, and it's very different. It's very different to live there as an adult, without your parents. What I realized is that I need both. I need the like nature and the concrete jungle, because just being there, it's like at least for me, I allow it to mold me, to change me, to like take myself in a way out of my mind and out of my existence, because you're almost so present. You have to be present in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is super true. And I must say that I love New York, but I think that part of the reason why I love New York is because I'm not in New York 365 days of the year. Because it is a harsh city, and I see it in myself. My temperament changes. I become way more aggressive or assertive, because it's like go go go, and you need to do it, and you need to do it now, and you need to make it happen. It has this energy. So for me it's also extremely important to have moments of retreat. To For me it's the beach and tanning. I'm a 100% sun worshiper. So for me, being under the sun and at a beach and just like disconnecting, it's extremely important, because it does, as amazing as it is, and as you said, as it brings fantastic things, but it's harsh. It's a harsh city.
It is
So for
hard.
me, it's important to be able to have these moments of like, okay, I'll see you in a little bit.
You'll always be there. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I talking about that. So are those one of the things, like tools that you use? Okay. So I want to know like what you do to be able to stay centered in yourself and in your projects and not go crazy. And that's okay if you have, because projects can go so many ways, right? And apart from like the travel, I love that part. But like in New York, what are your practices and outside of New York?
Mm-hmm. So my daily practices or my permanent practices are meditation, Reiki, and therapy. And I think that all three of them are huge, if not the most important components to keep me sane and centered and grounded. So I meditate daily. If not daily, I might skip a day or two, but it's definitely a practice that is present in my life. Um, Therapy once a week and Reiki once a week. And in a way that takes care of my mind and my spirit very well. And then my little escapades to the sun. Those are the things that truly like center me. And then spending time with my family, 100%.
Yeah. It's interesting because I used to live in Williamsburg, and the park was right there, Domino Park. When I moved in, it just like it was almost opening, and then it opened, and that like changed even more that area. It changed so much that I was back recently and I couldn't recognize it, which is what happens in New York, right? It changes, it fluctuates, even neighborhoods change. Like you close your eyes and it's like, whoa, where am I? And I we had these neighbors that became very close. We became very close, and they came from Seattle, and they used to say, "Oh my God, New York is so bright. It has so much sun." And I'm like, "What? For me,
So
so
percent,
great."
no?
It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. And so they were like, "Oh, New York is so sunny," and for me, it's like, "Oh, New York is so great." Yeah, yeah. But it's the same. I remember one year living there. I counted, and in a year, I was outside of New York 7 months of that year. And then I come back and I'm like, la la la, I love New York, But obviously, you were
Which is fantastic. You need distance to love a person or a city a little more, I think. Yeah.
exactly. So, with your projects, I go into your Instagram or your page, your business page, and the colors and the vibrancy, but at the same time, it's like these contrasts that you have of oppositions. And I know I'm throwing that out there, but it's like it's very New York and very retreat, like in that sense, like in the conceptual side of it. And I just, it's like luxurious and at the same time, like you said, very lived. And I'm telling you my experience because it's almost like I want to eat your projects. That's how I see them.
I've never heard that one, and that's interesting, but thank you.
It's out of pleasure. It's like a chocolate cake, let's say that. Or ice cream.
Sure.
Okay. That happens. I did say that.
That's totally fine. But yeah, I think that's one of my trademarks. Definitely, it's very, very color driven. I would say it's very color driven. It's very art driven as well, and it's very curated. I am also lucky that I work with a lot of clients that have lived many lives, or they have lived in many places, or they travel a lot. So there's also an accumulation of objects or art or furniture pieces that they've brought within their different travels or living abroad or whatever. So that helps also create a way more textured space. No, it's not just the space that you saw that it looked beautiful in a showroom and you just put it together. These are layered because it's their life story that comes together within in a space through my eye. So it's 100% their home, and if you see them, they're all very different. There's a conductive thread of of course, I am the one creating the space, but I am just a channel of who this person inhabiting this space is. And this is my interpretation of who you are and how you want to live. But it's 100% their home.
Wow. Wow. It's like seeing them through your eyes. Like it's almost like, because sometimes I have this thing in my mind that my next home, I want someone else to design it for me. Because of exactly what you said. Because there's a thing that sometimes it's so hard to see ourselves, and like other people can see you, yeah, better. And you have that. That is so unique.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I'm guessing your clients feel the same way.
Yes, I think so. I want to believe so. And I guess that's also represented in that I'm called back for other homes when they move, or second homes or third homes. I've had clients for whom I've worked 2, 3 projects, multiple. And also the trust that they have in me and in the process that they recommend me to their friends or their family. So that's, I feel very lucky that way, of course, because they're able to see that in me in order to call me back or to recommend me to someone else. No.
And how do you, because a lot of the time I've encountered a lot of people that say, oh, I can design my home, or I can do it myself. And have you encountered that? Or how do your clients break through that and say, no, I prefer hiring a professional for my home?
So I haven't specifically encountered someone that says I can do it, because then why are you even calling me? No. There have been moments, of course, where when a client has a specific idea or like a concept, a vision of what they would love their home to look like, and at that moment, which is normal, of course, we all have that. But at that moment, whether it is because maybe it's not something that's 100% aligned with me, or maybe because I think that a variation of this would be better, or my variation of this would be better. So what I've done in those cases is, okay, based on what I heard that you want, this is what I propose to do for you. And if we're on the same page, we can move forward. But if not, then obviously there's a disconnect from the beginning, and I'm not the right fit for you. And vice versa. But primarily, of course, I am creating their space. So I have to be able to deliver ultimately.
So it's almost like a trust in you. Yes. Which is very personal.
And I think that the most beautiful thing is when, and it always happens, there's a moment in the project where you're like validating something little, like, of course, the bulk of it is there, but okay, so this or this, and they tell you, I trust you. And that to me is like, okay, we've breached the line. Let's go for it. And that's beautiful to hear, especially with new clients, because there's that learning curve again of like, okay, yes, okay, now I trust you, now go for it. Whereas with other clients where you've worked for them for multiple projects, they're like, for instance, I've had two clients that one of them, he walked into the space and like, wow, this is like, he was shocked. Like I'm like, where have you been like throughout this whole process that you're shocked that this looks like this? Like, have you not been looking at what I've been presenting? And that's, and it goes both ways. It's the trust that they have that I can produce, but it's also me being able to interpret who they are and what they want within this space. So it goes hand in hand, and there's a lot of communication and a lot of listening, active listening, that needs to be happening.
So I want to say it's almost like when you surrender, these words, like you surrender to life, you surrender to God, you surrender to Francisca Trujillo, so she can create these beautiful projects for you. I was joking,
By choice,
but it's true.
no?
By choice. No, it's by choice. It's complete choice. And that that you're going to be almost protected. And because it is personal projects. Like it is their home. Like they're the ones that are going to live in it. And you know that, and you know that responsibility, because it is a responsibility. And I don't know how much we're taught in school. I think that one of the biggest things we need to learn is like it's another human being behind those doors, you know, that are going to see the colors you pick, that are going to see the fabrics. And every day that also stimulates who they are as well. And I sometimes think like I it's almost like designing the future version of them.
Yes, you're right. Because I mean, from that moment forward, in a way, they're walking into a different space with which they're going to interact differently. And your surroundings make such a huge impact on how you operate. And if you, at the end of the day, you come into a beautifully designed space or something that feels welcoming and nurturing and warm and nice and cozy, and that is going to create an impact on your psyche, which will then be transferred into everything that is touched by you. So yeah, there is a turning point. That's a good way of seeing it. It's like before and after your life after me.
Exactly. Exactly. I would love to see those case studies, by the way, when you do them. How has your life changed after me?
That is true.
um, it is true. I think it is important. I think though those are the real, you know, like prototypes or tests, and you know, and yeah, prototype and test. And so I have another question, and I'm so curious how you have worked like outside of New York, outside of the country, and like how that transition has been, like operating in another country, and then how that, you know, personally.
So how it happened, just clients that trusted me enough to ship me across the world and have me design their spaces somewhere else. So it comes to trust again. And it's been very interesting because I like at this point, so I've done my first abroad was Northern Africa in Morocco. Then I want to say it was Europe in Spain. And then Europe now there's multiple, which has been also very interesting to navigate the different countries and cultures, because I've done Spain, France, Switzerland, and it's like a completely different ball game in all three of them. And South America, Colombia. So it's very interesting because it's different languages, it's different cultures. And for instance, when I did projects in Spain and in Switzerland, literally, how does it start? By me walking the city up and down and finding out who am I going to work with, like who's going to be my mill worker, who's going to be my upholsterer, where I'm going to get furniture with. And it's a lot of trial and error also, but it's been interesting. But it's been like feet on the ground, let's figure the city out. And to me that's exciting too, because as I said, I like trying things once. So now I know, if you ask me where can I get this, I've tried 10 upholsterers. I can tell you in Madrid, this is the person you need to go to. But you only learn that through experimenting and through being a little curious also, I think, and to also trying to find solutions and adapting, which is a little bit what we were discussing earlier as well.
Yeah, that is so cool. Because sometimes we think, oh, you're from New York. And it's like, no. Like, this is a global community. Like, and you know, interior design is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the eye, you have the experience. So you'll know when you're interviewing these contractors or partners that you're going to use on your projects, you know already. Or like you say, sometimes, yeah, there's some errors, trial and error, and you do that. But then once you know how to solve, you know how to find solutions, you know how to.
I think more than knowing is that you know what the end result you're hoping for is, and you know how to find solutions. But knowing how to work, it's so different. Like You really have to, because you are the strange person here. No, this is their home, this is what they're doing. You're just in and out for one project. So you do have to adapt to how they do things. And coming from New York specifically, where our work values are so strict, and so like deliver, and if you don't deliver, you're out, and there's going to be someone else. That only happens there. Go somewhere else, and you need to chill, and you need to give people time, and you need to give people their space, and you have to learn to work wherever you are. 100%. So yes, you can have a vision, but you have, in order for your projects abroad, or even in another city, like working in Miami, it's a whole other thing, very different than working in New York. You have to adapt to your environment ultimately.
Yeah. And how do you do that, like with your clients, with timelines? And do you have a team that you just gather, or you have people that always help you complete projects?
So locally, I have a team of people that help me with all the national stuff. But when there are projects abroad, which are mostly full renovations, there's always a local architect, who is the person that's in charge of conducting all the permitting. And I mean, they are the ones that know the rules of each place. So that's super important. And then the construction team, also trying to reach a construction team with whom you can have a good workflow. But now in the area of technology, like in the middle of COVID, I was managing projects in Spain like nothing, like phone calls every day, video calls. It was pure COVID. Everything was closed. And then, of course, the day Europe opened, or Spain opened, on a Monday, I was there on Wednesday. And then, okay, now I'm here. Now we can do it. But before that, for months, we were managing projects remotely, which is wonderful that now we have that flexibility.
I loved it. I love that. I have had experience outside of the country, and like from the US and Dominican Republic. I designed an apartment recently in Vienna, and all remotely. And it is true. Sometimes I get to visit, sometimes I don't. While I was in Paris, I was designing a house in a beach town, a villa. That's exactly how I do it. I contact local engineers, local architects. I think this is why a lot of the questions I asked you is like your connection with your clients, because at the end, yes, you can hire an amazing architect or an amazing interior designer, but it's the relationship you have, it's the connection, and also the reputation as well. It's like, at the end of the day, your clients have to feel comfortable. They have to feel comfortable with you.
Yeah, because I mean, realistically, wherever I'm doing these projects, there's plenty of interior designers that can do the job, that they're local, that they don't have to fly over, that they're probably even different rates, even different cost of producing this, to fly someone from New York. But when there's that trust and that desire, I think that's I feel very fortunate and lucky that they have that trust in me.
And it makes it special. Francisca, anything else you want to share with us today? I also want to know what you're excited for in the future. Like, what's next for Francisca Trujillo?
I'm excited about life in general. I'm excited every day. What's next? I am starting, or not starting, but I'm more seriously not considering, I'm already in the path of having a parallel path between art and interior design. I love painting. So incorporating more of that into my daily life, and into an actual practice where I'm producing work constantly. That is something that has me excited and looking forward to it, which is soon to come. I'm gonna get a studio, an art studio, an atelier, where I'm gonna be able to develop all the ideas that come to my mind, and that I never fully explore, under the premise that I don't have space. Well, now I'm gonna have space, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, congrats. I can't wait to visit your studio when I'm there.
Let me know when you're in the city.
Meet in person.
100%, I'd love that.
Where can people find you? I'll have it on the show notes, but...
Thank you. So my website, franciscatrujillo.com, first and last name, and same for Instagram, franciscatrujillo.id. And yeah, I'm there. That's how you can find me.
Thank you so much for today. This was a joy. This was, I think expansive for me, like learning from you, listening to your experience. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having this space available. I love the guests you've had on board, and it's wonderful to see all these amazing people come through here.
Thank you so much. Adios. Space Whispers. Thank you for spending time with me today. Your host, Rainy, on the Space Whispering podcast. I hope today's episode gave you something to reflect on, inspire you, or energize you to create something beautiful. Help us grow this soulful community and spread the love by subscribing to the podcast, leaving a review, or sharing this episode with your community. If you're feeling called to transform your inner or outer spaces into a true reflection of you, let's connect. Schedule a discovery session with me at rainy.co or Instagram rainy_. What soulful actions will you take today? Keep listening to the whispers of creation and let your soul's magic flow into the world. See you soon. Besitos.